know what you're thinking. Why is it taking so long to find out who our next president is? Full results are never available on election night. We're just used to learning the president-elect fairly early because of news outlet projections. So the system is still working. It's just slow. And the pandemic isn't helping. Over 60 million Americans casted mail-in or absentee ballots. That's up more than 80% compared to 2016. But here's the thing. It can also take longer to process these mail-in ballots. Election workers need to open envelopes, flatten ballots, and verify signatures before they're scanned and counted. And on top of that, some states are slower than others. There are 3 important battlegrounds with restrictions on when the mail vote can be processed: Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. In those states, Republican-controlled legislatures resisted pleas from election officials to update the laws to allow for a speedier count. In Pennsylvania, GOP sources within the state house tell me they initially supported an earlier start to processing, but were unable to reach a compromise with the Democratic governor over other concessions. Meanwhile, Florida and Ohio were allowed to process mail-in ballots before November 3rd. That's why they had a lot of the vote counted by the time the polls closed. But in places like Nevada or Arizona, which were allowed to start tabulating before Election Day, it's still taken some time.
I think it's important for the entire country to understand that mail ballots on this scale is very new to the state of Nevada. We made a decision here to provide as much access as we possibly could as a result of the pandemic, and so our process has run a little bit slower.
So why does the president claim his political opponents are trying to steal the election? In Pennsylvania, Republicans are not happy with the state's Supreme Court ruling that allowed mail-in ballots to be counted up to 3 days after Election Day, even if those ballots are not clearly postmarked, as long as there's nothing to suggest they were mailed after the polls closed. Members of the GOP also feel they weren't given enough access to observe the vote counting process. Protesters in several states are echoing those calls for more transparency, even though our reporters on the ground have seen both Democrat and Republican representatives watching the vote count. But today, a Pennsylvania appeals court did grant the Trump campaign a closer look at the tabulation process. To be clear, none of this is stealing an election. These are deadlines for vote counting that have actually made their way through our court system. There are no surprise ballot drops nefariously shaking things up. In some states, Joe Biden appeared to be ahead at first, only for the president to take the lead after more results came in. In other instances, the president's lead in Michigan and Pennsylvania, for example, narrowed after election night as more mail-in ballots were counted. Now, this could be because more Democrats voted by mail than Republicans. It's a well-researched phenomenon called the blue shift, and election experts have been warning about this for weeks. But that still doesn't point to any evidence of widespread voter fraud. And to be super clear about this, the ballots that are still being counted were not cast after Election Day. Many states will accept mail-in ballots if they were postmarked on or before November 3rd. They're just given some time to be delivered.
The strength of the integrity of this vote is really unparalleled.
Keep in mind, this is a bipartisan process. Republicans, Democrats, Independents, they're all working alongside one another to get these votes counted. Leaders from both parties in the battleground of Arizona released a statement together urging voters to be patient, saying, quote, "An accurate vote takes time." At the end of the day, legal votes are still legitimate, even if they're counted late.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.